Hi everyone, we are live once again. Welcome to the webinar. Today we are diving into something that actually really is at the heart of our profession, our own reflective practice. We'll be looking at how Gemini can become a valuable partner in this ongoing journey of self-improvement, as educators. So who are we? We are Forecast, and in collaboration with Grupo Planeta, we are organizing these webinars. Forecast is where myself and Roland work. It is a company that helps educational organizations to grow digitally by cleverly integrating ICT into teaching practice. So next week, in the next webinar, in number 6 of 8 actually, we will be talking about our own professional development. But for now, I'm gonna leave the stage to Roland because I will be working behind the screens and assisting Roland. So make sure if you guys have any questions, drop them down below in the comment section or in the chat, and we will make sure we can answer them. At the end of the webinar, we will organize a short 15 minutes Q&A. So don't be shy, and if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat. Okay, guys? Roland, I'm leaving the stage to you.
All right, thank you. So there we are. So here's what we've got lined up for today. First, we'll explore how taking the time to reflect on our teaching can really open up new perspectives and help us fine-tune our teaching learning processes. And of course, we'll touch upon how AI and specifically Gemini can be catalyzing in this reflection. And next, we'll dive into Gemini itself and see how we can use it to generate some really thought-provoking questions. So to think more deeply and meaningfully about our own teaching experiences. And then we'll get into data analysis, and we'll see that crunching the numbers is very crucial for grounding our reflections into evidence, helping us to make informed decisions about anything we do, not just going with a hunch. And finally, we'll bring it all together by looking at how AI can assist us in crafting our very personal, or I don't know, maybe even collective reflection model. Think of it as a personalized roadmap for continuous learning. Right, so as we are now in our 5th session, you're all quite familiar with the capabilities of AI and Gemini. I hope you've been trying stuff out. If, by the way, if you have missed out on a few sessions, because this is the 5th one, you can find all the recordings and all the materials on your Blackboard. Today we'll be looking at how AI can serve as a sophisticated catalyst for analyzing our teaching methodologies. And it's about using these tools to help us get more deeper insights, to see patterns you might otherwise miss, and actually to really sharpen our self-analysis, all with the idea of a continuous classroom improvement. So building on what we already know, let's explore how AI, far from being just a tech tool, how it's becoming a strategic partner to help even improve your teaching experience. So in the previous sessions, we really dug into some crucial parts of our teaching. So from planning and creating materials to developing comprehension and teaching strategies. And today we're zooming in on reflective practice, which, as you can see here, is what really ties everything together and closing the loop. So now, while it looks like a neat circle, the planning, the creation, the strategies, and then the reflection, we all know that teaching isn't always that linear, of course. And you might jump between stages or bring in other elements as the situation demands it. So the main idea here is that it's a dynamic, cyclical process, and all these components are interconnected. And so rather than following some rigid set order, what we're really going to unpack today is how fundamental this act of reflecting on our practice truly is, and see how that works. So, as AI becomes more deeply woven into, let's say, the fabric of education, it of course leads us to think critically about the future of our practice. And we've already seen many of its capabilities in our past sections. I'm going to have a sip first. Sorry. Now, moving beyond the specifics of any single tool or platform, the basic question is, right here on the slide, how can artificial intelligence truly transform our pedagogical practice? And it isn't just a fleeting thought, basically. It's an invitation to really explore the potential of AI and to reshape how we approach teaching and learning. And we're talking about how it can help us redefine our processes and maybe even optimize how we manage our classrooms or our groups of students, how we create more personalized learning journeys for our students, and of course, ultimately, how they can enrich us as educators, right? So, to set the stage for our discussion on reflective practice, let's quickly revisit some familiar territory from our earlier webinars. You'll remember that we spent some good time on planning, and we have already explored in depth how AI and Gemini, it's been in more specifically, can be this powerful ally in the whole planning and programming side of our work. And we looked at everything from crafting detailed study plans, structuring academic programs, like the example you see here with the social psychology guide, even to designing teaching units and getting classes prepped for more efficient work and effective work, maybe. The whole idea, as we discussed, was to really optimize that phase of the teaching learning process. And of course, how well that planning phase goes is often one of the first things we consider when we start reflecting on our practice. So did that really go well, the planning? And then following on our planning, we also dedicated some time to content creation, as you'll remember. So we saw how AI, like Gemini, that you see on the screen here again, is really changing the game in how we develop educational materials. So we remember that we explored the power to help us generate structured learning sequences, making effective quizzes, and even come up with interactive activities that can make the classroom experience much richer. So moreover, we touched upon creating supporting visuals, like images, like infographics and the likes, so to make our materials even more engaging for our students. And just like with planning, the effectiveness of the content we create, whether we use AI or not, is really ground for reflection. So how did it land with the students? Did it achieve the learning objectives? And these are the kinds of questions that we'll be thinking about. Then, of course, we moved into the dynamic area of teaching strategies, and we looked at how we can really enrich our classes and expand our toolkit. And you'll remember that we used Gemini and Notebook LM, and that we showed that they could be powerful allies again in the classroom. Think about the creation of engaging activities, like you see here, the drag and drop exercise, which is actually made by Gemini. So the core idea was to use these technologies to innovate and to personalize our teaching methods, and always with the aim of making the learning experience more effective, deeper, more meaningful to our students. And of course, the choice of these strategies, they again make for our reflective practice again, what worked, what could be tweaked, and how did it impact student engagement and understanding. And finally, we spent some time on how AI can support us in assessment, and critically not just assessment for grading, but assessment to get a deeper understanding in our students. So we explored a range of applications where we saw that we could use AI in rubric design and analyzing results, generate personalized feedback that can guide students effectively towards improvement. And the visual here hints at how Gemini can be part of that process. You've been reading it. So actually, assessment becomes a key tool for really understanding the progress of students and to ensure that the learning that they're doing is both meaningful and lasting. So the insights we gain from these assessment activities are, of course, absolutely crucial to have a reflection on our practice, and it helps us to see what's working and where we might need to adapt. So this diagram illustrates this dynamic and cyclical nature of what we do, leading to that crucial point, reflection and readjustment at the bottom. So let's quickly run through it. It starts with us, basically, as teachers, planning and designing. We're the architects here. We talked about that. We design the learning environment. We line up the resources. We set the challenges. We define what we expect will be the outcome. And this is how so our students can get their bearings. Basically, they understand the context. They know the learning objectives, and then we move to provocation. And here we're guiding and facilitating. So we put up meaningful activities. We try to vary teaching strategies, and we really work to stimulate the interaction and exploration, which is so key, of course. And then throughout this, there's accompaniment and assessment, and it's always almost in a continuous loop. We're observing, we're diagnosing. Think about formative assessment here, which is a really nice way to do that, to gather information about their progress or any hurdles they're facing. So while we're providing that constructive feedback and guiding them on a pathway to improvement, that will help the students progress and identify their challenges and adjust their understanding and their strategies. So then critically, this leads to the student reflecting and synthesizing. They analyze their experiences, their wins, their struggles, and connect all of them back to the initial goals and the feedback they've received from us. And this is where it becomes truly powerful for us too. While the student is reflecting, their insights can provide great feedback on the effectiveness of our strategies. Did we do well? And that's the heart of this slide, reflection and readjustment for both us and our students. And based on all that reflection, we redefine the next step, isn't it? And maybe introduce new challenges, modify our approaches for the next cycle of learning. And that act of readjusting, that closes the loop and that kicks off a new one. So it's the continuous cycle of action, reflection, adaptation, that's what we're aiming for, and that's what we try to master. You feel there is a PDCA circle in there. I'm not going to go into that. Now, we're going to shift gears a bit and look at how Gemini can be a partner in this reflective process. Specifically, we'll explore how it can empower us by helping to generate questions and even offer suggestions that can lead to teaching improvements. So let's see how that we could use that actually to prompt deeper thinking. So look at the screen, of course. So it's important to recognize how Gemini can really elevate more or less our self-analysis. So we're not just talking about any questions here. Gemini can provide some truly sharp and targeted questions. So as you can see here, The prompt is, you're a university professor, I would like to reflect deeply on a recent teaching experience. You don't need to make this specific. And then please formulate a list of reflection questions that will help me to analyze this experience and from various perspectives and identify key learnings for my professional development. It's a general prompt, yeah, but in that way specific because you define your university professor profile. So that would give you, and as you can see, it's more or less 30 questions that Gemini provides, and there must be a few that are interesting. So it allows us to move beyond just kind of scratching the surface of what happened in the lesson. So it helps us to really dig down deep to identify the causes behind certain outcomes if it didn't go well, or you explore alternative perspectives on the teaching decisions that we made. And in the end, to actually, you try to deepen your self-analysis. And these aren't generic questions, and what Gemini can offer are intelligent prompts. They're specifically designed to facilitate the reflection on your teaching, and you can be specific if you want to in your prompt, and it'll get specific questions. Those you can use to think about what you did. So when we talk about using Gemini to help us with reflective questions, what are the areas that we can explore? For instance, the general experience and the initial impressions. This is about capturing top-level thoughts. So, for example, you might ask Gemini to help you reflect on, and I quote there, what aspects do I perceive as the real strengths during this learning experience? And conversely, what aspects left me feeling dissatisfied? Yeah. Or about planning and preparation, very crucial. Guiding question could be, to what extent did my preparation actually address the learning objectives I set for the session? My preparation, was it okay? About the execution and the dynamics in the classroom, for instance, how did it all play out? Was I truly effective in articulating complex concepts during my explanation? Did they understand? And about the student learning and assessment, what was the impact on the students? So based on their interactions and even their non-verbal cues, what evidence do I have that they really grasp the key concepts? These questions are all AI generated and good level. Some other aspects like self-reflection, professional growth, some external factors maybe, and context. And finally, it's always good to ask, like, were there any external factors like the classroom atmosphere or any technical hiccups, the Wi-Fi didn't work, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So these are kinds of reflection questions on reflection you can actually get from AI. Now, we've all had some practice prompting Gemini in our previous sessions, so I hope you really dug in deep there. And in the principle of specificity, oh, that's a difficult word, specificity. So to be specific, that's absolutely key. And when we're asking for help with reflection question, and as the slide says, the more specific, the better. So think about it, the more detail you provide about your needs, your specific context, like in the example prompt here, you can read through it, about teaching thermodynamics to the first-year chemistry students, the more tailored and relevant Gemini's suggestions will be. So provide context. If you give Gemini a really clear picture of what you're trying to analyze or to improve, then it can offer you much more precise and much more relevant questions that you can ask yourself or the students. And those are the kinds of questions that will effectively guide your analysis and lead to useful insights. And that's what we're all after, of course. Okay. So you're all familiar with the GEMS feature. Talked about it a couple of times in the previous sessions. So let's think about how we can really use that to create a kind of a mentor or a coach for our own reflective practice. So as the tip on the slide reminds us of, and as we discussed about general prompting, being highly specific in your instructions again is, and also in your jam, is crucial here. So when you precisely define what you need, you can set up a jam to act as your intelligent partner, not just a partner, intelligent partner, and one that is specifically armed to help you deepen your teaching practice. And that personalized jam, which is always there, can assist you in reviewing your methodologies, in offering you different perspectives and helping you evaluate the impact of your strategies and even about your outcomes. And the goal here is to use this powerful feature you already know to get, again, a tailored support system, and that can facilitate your continuous learning. So you've seen in the GIF how that works and how that can help you. So it's always there. You don't need to repeat all the prompting then, and it's always there. Now, maybe something special here. You can use the Gemini app on your phone and its live mode to make actually an interactive and conversation. So using a specific prompt, which is there's a prompt there, you can tell them you want them to act as your digital transformation mentor, the AI, and ask you thoughtful questions about your teaching practice. So you can just say that I want you to act as my digital transformation mentor, and I want you to ask me thoughtful questions about my teaching practice. You're just talking to your phone, and you can see even, and you can talk to the phone. The phone will talk back. The Gemini app will talk back, and then afterwards you can actually get the transcript of what you were saying, and that's really nice to check that out later. Suppose you're in the car and you start wondering about your teaching practice, and you can do this in the car without writing, and later on you can just look back at it, and that's for later review, and then you get deeper analysis of your reflection with AI assisted reflection. Why not? Next, we're going to explore the data analysis and how AI can really supercharge our reflection process in the area. And we're looking at how AI-assisted data analysis can empower us as educators by finding patterns and getting insights that can help us transform that teaching practice more efficiently and more profoundly. So this hexagonal model illustrates a cyclical and systematic process designed to enable university instructors, or those at any level, by the way, to actually analyze their classroom experiences, learn from them, and improve their teaching and student learning. So the stages are, starting at the top, setting the goals, what learning objectives for students or improvements in my teaching practice do I want to achieve. And at that stage, the teacher clearly defines what he or she hopes to achieve, or what aspects of his or her teaching he or she, I'm making it difficult for myself, he or she wants to improve in the short and long term. Then defining the questions. What key questions do I ask? Do I ask myself about my practice, about the impact of my practice? So formulate specific reflective questions to guide the inquiries into the experience, actually. So like, which elements of my class generated the most engagement, or why was a specific concept difficult for my students, or how did my time management influence the activity? Then you can collect and organize data. What information do I need? How will I structure it? And the teacher, well, finds relevant data sources that will allow them to analyze the situation. And that might be classroom observations, student feedback, I don't know, surveys, any comments, analyses of assignments or exams, whatever. Yeah. We can then analyze and make sense of the data. What patterns are there? What meanings do I find in all the information I collected? In that stage, the teacher examines the data, looks for trends, connections, discrepancies, maybe, and then the teacher attempts to understand the why of events and identify influencing factors. And yeah, then you could take informed actions. What concrete changes will I implement in my teaching based on what I've learned? And understanding this, then the teacher decides what specific strategies or methodologies or adjustments should he or she make in the future in his or her future classes. So there it is. And evaluation and adjusting the actions in the end is answering the question, how will I assess the impact of my new actions and what adaptations will be necessary? And finally, we monitor it and we evaluate whether the implemented changes are getting to the desired results. And new data is collected to close the loop again and continue the improvement process, as of course reflective practice is a continuous process. Yeah, all theory, of course. Now let's see how that works. You see here there's a use case data analysis, and I'm just trying to show you this, how this works. I have prepared a Google Sheet there. I'm going to show it to you. Just give me a second to switch. There it is. So it's it's an easy, simple Google Sheet. There's a student, all these students here, 19, 20 of them. There is a test before, the analysis, the test after, and these are scores in 100s. Yeah. So what you could do is basically go to Gemini, and you can see I'm switching screens again here. You could go to Gemini, and then you can actually use a prompt or make a prompt. And I have to switch first, sorry. Make the prompt at the right side. You can click on the prompt, as you can see there. And I'm going to do that and show it to you. I'm really making magic with all my screens here. So this is a possible prompt. Yeah. So what do I need to do to have? What I need AI to do actually is analyzing the data from these tests, and your analysis should just determine whether the performance of the practice has improved general understanding of the students. So you did something, you explained something, you did something before, tested before, explained something, and then afterwards you get the new results. So in addition to the global analysis, it says here, it carries out a detailed analysis by students to identify cases of improvement, stagnation, deterioration, and then group students into performance categories, low, high performance on test one. For each category, analyze whether the practice has a differential impact, that is, whether certain student profiles benefited more or less from the practice. And finally, based on that analysis, suggest specific pedagogical strategies that could be implemented to support students. So basically, what in this prompt, and I'm going to copy it. In this prompt, you see that you actually prepare some of your practice analysis. So did I do right? how did my students do this? And I copied it, I guess, just to be sure, and go to Gemini then. So basically what I'm doing, I'm not using anything specific. What I'm doing is to upload the file, add from the drive, of course, and need to wait for that. Oh, it's not there. Just a sec. Switching again and taking a Gemini from another account, because I, of course, have made everything here. There it is, the test. So I just enter it because it's in my Google account, and then I'm going to actually paste the analysis. Yeah. And what I'm doing, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just going to ask for it. I'm not even deep researching it. I'm just having this run. I'm sorry that it's in Dutch here. It says thinking, and there it is, thinking, and I asked the question in English, so I get the English results. There it is, global analysis, detailed analysis in a table, which I didn't ask, but still he did do that. I can export it to spreadsheets, by the way. And there it is, the whole analysis, just in a simple Gemini AI chat. Yeah? And it says here, have Gemini make a document or a code that you can try. And I can do that. And it actually is going to generate now code. And I'm now in Canvas, as you can see. Yeah? And it's generating code now for me, making it really interesting, showing it in a different way. And then, I'm sorry that it's in Dutch, but then I can make a web page, an infographic, a quiz, or an audio review. So it will tell you what you actually did. Really, really, really special. Let's switch again to the presentation. So if you would actually do this, making the webpage and the infographic, it takes too much time. It takes like really a lot of minutes to do so, and a lot of energy, therefore. So I'm just showing you a possible result here. This is what is made by the Canvas part of Gemini. So it made a web page of your analysis, and you used some basic elements. So that's really, really, really cool. You can generate interactive web pages. So like a student performance dashboard, like we see here. Maybe some structured infographics, quizzes based on the findings, and as I said, audio summaries. So the idea is to take the insights from our data analysis and present them in ways that are easier to digest, to interact with, and of course, reflect upon, because that's the idea. It's about making that data work harder for us in our reflective practice. Okay. So beyond looking at numerical performance data, which can be influenced by so many different things, of course, you can also get other data from students' words, and this is in this slide. You can see this. There is a data collection by means of a Google form. Could be a Microsoft form, doesn't matter. And there's a survey asking questions, asking students actually for direct feedback on your teaching performance, or a series of teaching, of course. It shouldn't be after every lesson. Then there's an AI-assisted analysis. And this is where it gets really powerful. You can use tools like Gemini to analyze all those comments, because both in Microsoft and in Google, you can put all the results into an Excel file, or a Google Sheet file. So like you see on the page, that you can feed to Gemini, And it will analyze all these comments, these words. Instead of just manually sifting through everything, Gemini can then efficiently help us identify the underlying student needs expressed in the feedback, or you can see an example from here, asking Gemini to do just that and to organize it. As it's running, you can see that. Categorize. This this actually leads to identifying and categorizing the needs. So Gemini will help us extract and classify the needs from these raw comments, actually. And that gives you a much more structured understanding of where we can focus our improvement efforts on. And finally, that all drives into actionable improvement. So based on very clear needs that we categorized here, we can then develop and propose concrete actions to improve our teaching practices. And so essentially this whole approach transforms that raw, sometimes overwhelming student feedback into practical knowledge. There's not numbers, but words. So it allows us to make data-driven decisions, not just a feeling, but no, you can actually perform an analysis. So once Gemini has helped you analyze the information, like the student feedback that we were just talking about, the next step is to work with these results effectively. And as this slide shows, you've got some great options. I can't do this live because it takes really a lot of time, sometimes minutes. So for instance, to get a clearer overview, you can simply ask Gemini to present the information in table format. Yeah? Just like you see here with the calculus student feedback summary. And it's great for better visualization and to make sense of all the key points just at a glance, basically. And if you want to present information and even more engaging or interactive, then you should perhaps even sharing with colleagues for a detailed review. I don't know how that works. You can also get Gemini to help you create a web page, as I said, and that can really transform all that data into a very dynamic resource. You've been watching this. Once you've analyzed the data, especially qualitative feedback, Gemini can then be very helpful in transforming it into formats that are much more accessible. So focus on what's important, for instance. Gemini can take then a content structure, perhaps based on themes from student feedback or even a concept map, and generate a web page again. And you can see how this works. Okay. Now, as the title of the slide says, the question is the key. And the quality of the answers and the insights we get back from our students really connects directly on the quality of the questions we ask. So if we ask very superficial questions, we'll likely get very general and not particularly helpful insights. What we're aiming for are questions that encourage deeper reflection from our students. As in the beginning, you can ask Gemini for help on those questions. So like open-ended questions, like the examples we see here, they might offer fewer responses in terms of sheer volume, but the quality and the depth of those answers will probably be higher. Sorry. So let's look at these categories and some more detailed examples. First, the clarity and the connection. So instead of just asking, was it clear? We could ask something more like, as it says there, which aspects of the course explanations and materials did you find most clear and helpful in understanding the concepts? Were there any topics you would like to see explored in more detail? And so on. Yeah, it's more or less the same question, but you get the intention is really to get more effective evaluation, to pinpoint specific areas for improvement. Or in the participation and commitment area, how involved are our students? So we could ask, how did the methodologies or the activities in the class, like debates, projects, or whatever, Encourage your active participation and engagement with the subject matter. How? That's an open question. Yeah. What suggestions would you have to improve interaction and motivation? So here we're trying to investigate classroom dynamics and the engagement of students and looking for ideas to boost that. Then there is application and relevance. So it's vital students see the connection to the real world. And a good question could be, how do you perceive the connection between the theory of the course and its application in real life? In your future professional fields? Could you give examples of how the class helped you develop those practical skills or understand a specific problem? And that really helps us measure the relevance of our content that we teach all the time, and our ability to close the gap between the theory and the practice. And then finally, feedback and support. Are our feedback mechanisms working? So we might ask, as it says there, was the feedback you received about your work and participation clear? Was it timely? Was it helpful to your learning process? Is there any support or resources that you feel could enrich your experience in this course? So aim here is to evaluate the quality of our feedback system and and support we offer students, because we always want to improve. Okay. So the key is to craft questions that encourage thoughtful responses, which we can then feed into our own reflective practice. When we think about providing or even receiving feedback, and this is crucial to our reflective cycle, there are several features that really make it powerful. So first, it needs to be specific and understandable. That means that the feedback should be crystal clear, precise, easy to grasp. So it will be much more helpful when it focuses on particular aspects of performance or behavior rather than very vague general things. Then it has to be timely and appropriate or suitable, as the slide says. Feedback is most effective when it's given at the right moment, and you know this. Ideally short after the action or the situation that you discussed. And of course, the content and how it's delivered should be appropriate for the individual you're speaking to. But okay, that's clear. Effective feedback is also descriptive and constructive, of course. It should focus on describing what happened, observe the actions or the outcome, rather than jumping to judgments. It needs that improvement-driven component, either by offering concrete guidelines or providing clear direction on how to move forward and how to grow. And feedback should also be recurring, and not more than once. Yeah, so multiple. And that's just if it's just one-time event, it's not enough. It should be an ongoing process that happens regularly. These are open doors, of course, and good feedback is also proactive and stimulating. So it doesn't just react to what already happened. It should also anticipate on future actions or look to strengthen the development and in the end. So finally, it should be guiding and focused. It says here an advisor and focused. So which is the same. The feedback should help guide the individual along a path of development or towards solving a problem. Right. So if you keep these features in mind and even use them in your AI questions and prompts, it can really elevate the quality of the feedback we give and how we interpret the feedback we receive ourselves. So how exactly do gems work in this context again, and why are they such time savers? First, again, we can preload the context, and it's a big one, because instead of typing out the same detailed instructions all the time, your gem has that built-in feature, as you know. So if you're reflecting on student projects and you have a specific rubric or a set of criteria, you can build that right into the gem. And as you can see with the instructions here and knowledge sections here. So no more repeating yourself. That's something that a gem can do for you. Second, it leads to standardized and consistent feedback. So because the gem is working from your predefined instructions, you can be sure that the feedback you get, or the feedback it helps you generate, will be consistent and in alignment with your specific expectations, or your framework. So if you've configured your gem for a specific feedback, it will know exactly what type of information and format to use every time. And third, there's a quick activation possible. So once your gem is all set up, with all the context, all the instructions, it's incredibly simple to activate. It's usually just a quick command, because it knows what you want, and you're good to go, rather than having to type all the complex prompts from scratch each time. But you know this. You have been given several examples of these gems. Interesting is, of course, when you have an account on Gemini, it can be the free account, you can keep your gems. They are saved for you, and that's really very helpful. So now we're moving into a really practical phase, thinking about how we can actively design a personal reflection model. And this part will explore how we can use advanced tools like NotebookLM, you've heard about it, to help us organize and analyze your teaching experiences. I'm going to speed it up a bit because I'm looking at the time. You might remember the SAMR model, SAMR model of last week. Technology could be used as substitution, as amplification, as modification, and redefinition. Well, with the PICRAT model today, we even take it a step further. So as we think about designing personal reflection models, it's very helpful to use this model. Yeah, a model is always a model. Whatever you can do, if it can play a part in your life, then it's nice. So it helps us to analyze two key aspects: the student's role with the technology, that's the PIC part, and how the technology is impacting our teaching practice. That's the RAT part. So let's quickly break it down. P is for passive, and that's where students are mainly consumers of information. And think about students watching a standard lecture video of you, pre-recorded, reading a static PDF article we've posted online, and they're receiving content but not actively interacting with the tech itself to manipulate it. So you were at the bottom, passive. I is, of course, for interactive. So yes, students are interacting with the technology, but usually in a predefined and limited way again. For example, they might be taking multiple choice quizzes online. That gives automatic feedback like that. But C stands for creative. That's where students are using technology as a tool to create something new, to produce original content or solutions. And at a university level, that could be that the students develop a multimedia presentation to explain a very complex topic, writing code maybe to solve, or having written the code by Gemini to solve an engineering problem or whatever, or producing a podcast, whatever. Yeah. So they're not just consuming or interacting, they're generating. So you've seen that there is a kind of a hierarchy. Now let's look at the RATs. That's you, the RAT. Technology is affecting the teaching process. R, again, is for replacement. So this is when technology is essentially used as a direct substitute for an older tool, which really, without really changing the task or improving it significantly. So for instance, using a projector and slides, just like we used an overhead projector when in earlier days. So A stands for amplification. Their technology is making our teaching activities more efficient. Think about using your LMS system, your Blackboard system, to not only distribute materials, but also manage grades efficiently, maybe host forums, have conversations with students, whatever. Or T is transformation. That's the most impactful level, of course. Technology is enabling new kinds of learning. And this could be students collaborating on a research project in real time with peers from another continent around the world, using advanced virtual reality simulations for medical training, for instance, or a virtual lab uh, experimenting, well, things that are too dangerous in a virtual environment. It's not dangerous or expensive to do. Uh, or engaging in a large scale data driven citizen science project, whatever, it can happen with technology. So if you understand this and you can then combine the different letters, then it's interesting. I'm going to quickly show you that. You see that where the examples are. If you just project a PowerPoint, that's passive in the with the students. That's really just not interesting for you to do. You just replace something. If you use a Google form, it might get more interactive. If you use Word documents, then students can make something. They can create in Canva or Canvas as if you use that as an LMS. So everything you see there is a possibility. So a VR tour could be passive for the students, but transforming for your subject matter. If you look at the top, a short movie or software development, if students create software based on your problem, on what you're teaching, or make a short movie of it, then they're creatively engaged in technology, trying to assimilate your lesson material. Very interesting model to look into. I can see that I'm really overusing time today. Going to go quickly through this one. How do we actively work towards more transformative integration of technology? We can do this by diagnosing first, making an honest look at our current classes and evaluating the level of technological integration that we're actually perceiving. We can plan maybe then some new intentional designed activities. Ask Gemini, use Gemini and say, I've heard about the model PICRAT. Could you, and I have this lesson, could you think about a more interactive, transformative plan for me? And then, of course, if you have performed the plan, you can reflect and improve later on if necessary. It's not, of course, again, it isn't a one-shot deal, of course, it's a cycle. Now, if you use NotebookLM, and we're nearly there, to actually, inserting your teaching plans, inserting your syllabi, your models, and then you can say, okay, I want to use PICRAT as a model, and could you give me a few ideas on that? And it's happening in your screens there. Could you give me a few ideas, because I want to improve my teaching practice, or this is what I've done so far. Tell it, write it down. This is what I've done so far with this material. How can I PICRAT it? Yeah, how can I make new ideas? And Gemini knows about PICRAT. You don't need to explain it. It knows it. It finds the stuff about the theory behind PICRAT. So that is really powerful if you do that. If you have a model to improve your teaching. There we are. Sorry for the 10 minutes extra. So this is the summary. You can also find that one in your Blackboard. Verder, are you still alive? Were there some?
Hey, Roland, I am. Thanks, that was very interesting. We don't have a lot of time left, but I want to ask you some questions real quick. Let's put in a couple. So yeah, my first question is, I'm actually curious about using Gemini for analyzing student survey comments. So can it truly understand the nuances and what students are saying and help me pinpoint what they actually need? Or is there maybe a chance it might just simplify things too much and miss some important stuff?
Well, good point. And It's a very
Mhm.
common question when we talk about AI. But you might be surprised at how good Gemini can do that. How good it can spot the underlying um, thematics in student comments and group them. Well, a lot depends, of course, on how well we have described the survey questions to begin with. Good questions give good Gemini material to work with. So, will it catch every single subtle nuance like a human who knows the full context? Maybe not always, but it is incredibly good at finding patterns and common feelings. And yeah, it is scary. It's really scary how quickly this evolves, and it can indeed be a helpful assistant.
Yeah.
It can even give the student the impression that you, as a teacher, have um, personally worked through all the material and then pretend it's you. It's really, yeah, it can really be a partnership, and it will understand a lot, and that's really scary, but
Mhm.
very powerful too at the same time.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for clearing that up. I have another one for
Mm.
you. So also that the big red model, it's a pretty neat way to think about tech in our teaching, and I actually
Mm.
really enjoyed that part a lot. But how exactly can Gemini help me figure out where my current activities fit on that grid? Because even more importantly, how can it like maybe help me come up with some with some practical ideas or to make my teaching more amplifying or more transformative?
Yeah. Well, of course, you have to understand the model,
Hmm.
and then you have to put it into action. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, um, so if you want to figure out where you are now, you could describe to, I don't know, Notebook LM or Gemini. You could
Hmm.
describe one of your activities, your teaching activities,
Okay.
and then what tech you are using, what the students do. Give it information, context, lots of it. It can be a one pager, yeah, and
Okay.
um, ask it to help you, or
Hmm.
no, ask it to place your teaching strategy, the one that you were describing, to place it on the PICRAT grid. You don't need to explain what PICRAT is, it knows that. And then maybe even showing the model, whatever. And then you could ask Gemini, how can I move on this grid? Um, well, everything's okay what you do in the grid, but you feel that moving towards more transformative, creative way, the students get creative, the teachers are more transformative. You could ask Gemini, how can I, with what you know now, how I did it, how can I move up to the in the scale of the model? And it will give you suggestions. If you're not happy with the suggestions, you just say, could you give me a few
Okay.
more suggestions? Because I'm not really, and it doesn't click, it doesn't agree with me yet. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then you can iterate again, as we said before. Just keep on asking questions until you reach something that works for you. So the
Okay.
interesting thing is that Gemini will know about the PICRAT model, and you should know about the PICRAT model too before you can use it. So
Hmm.
there's always this human factor. You cannot rely on Gemini for everything, but you can use it, not abuse it, but use it to make your teaching practice better, or to reflect on your teaching practice. If you are interested in the PICRAT model, it's just one of the models that you can use in teaching. So there it is, and use it to your benefit.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks for clearing that up as well.
Mhm.
I believe that's all the questions I had for today. Roland,
Okay.
thanks again for the webinar. To our audience, thanks again for being there and visiting us. I guess I will see you next week, Roland.
Next week again, and then we're talking about, let's see, the this one, professional development. That was it.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, thank you
Cheers.
guys for visiting. See you guys. Bye.
Next time.